Welcome on in, Outlap F1 Nation. This will be Season 6, Episode number 40 of the Outlap F1 podcast. We are at it again. It's our 2024 Mexico City. Don't call it the Mexican GP because it's not. It's the Mexico City GP preview show. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight. And long time no see, sir, but how's it been hanging in the last couple days?
It has been going good, SSDD. According to Wikipedia, it's still the Mexican GP, although they do make a little bit of a note there about it being the Mexico City one. But yeah, quick turnaround on this one, but after the time we had off, I'm loving it.
Yeah, re-rack and go again is the theme. So if you had a bad US GP, you don't have to too much long to dwell on it. You can turn around, and this is leg 2 of the first triple header to close out the season. So it's this one, then Brazil, then a break, and then Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and then we take a longer break before 2025 will be upon us. So, but that's hopefully why you're all here. We have lots of good stuff to talk about as we ramp up for this week's Grand Prix. And you can find our show, as always, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and, of course, YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of that. If you happen to be on YouTube and you like what you're seeing and you enjoy what you're hearing, do us a solid and smash that subscribe button, or you can leave us a like. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, specifically Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would help us come up a little bit better in search results and get our content to you that much quicker. And we would be most appreciative if you'd like to do that. You can email the show, as always, chat now at outlapf1.com. Outlap F1 Nation, thank you so much to our monetary supporters, including Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and, of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to join our Outlap F1 Nation and get a shout-out every time at the beginning of a show, you can leave us $5. It's our anchor page. We would be most appreciative if you'd like to do that. And what does that do? It helps us reinvest in the show. It helps us to get new equipment that we don't already have, or upgrade equipment we already have. So we would be most appreciative if you'd like to do that. You can see our link in our show notes for all of that. Last announcement before we hop into the GP weekend proper. You can take 20% off and get free shipping from the good folks at Manscaped with our code OUTLAP. That's OUTLAP, all one word. And we are very proud to bring that offer to you. All right. So not a ton of news, but a couple of items of news. One actually dropped just a few hours ago before we started recording, and that they both concern McLaren. Number one, McLaren have launched a right of appeal over the very now controversial Norris penalty in Austin. I was coming home and listened to a different podcast that basically went on it for 45 minutes. So yeah, it's a story that doesn't seem to want to go away. So there will be a hearing that takes place tomorrow at 14:30 local time at track time. McLaren will need to show that there is some sort of new evidence that was not available when the original penalty was assessed. If they can, then the meeting would proceed to phase 2, which way they would basically, the same stewards who ruled the first time would rehear the case and have potential to change their mind or not. If they are successful, McLaren, Norris would, the 5-second penalty would go away. He would regain P3, and that would move the championship back from 57 points, where it is now, to a 51-point delta to Max Verstappen. So, I mean, Cody, we went through this ad nauseum in our last one. I don't know that we need to talk about this any more, but any other thoughts you have on at least McLaren's right of appeal? Do you think they have a case? I kind of don't.
I mean, they have the right to appeal. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. As you said, they need to present new evidence that wasn't available at the time. And this is just like an on-track event. Like, what new evidence is there? We all saw the shots on the camera. We all said our stuff about whether we thought it was fair or not. And the stewards made the call. Like, I don't think they can really take that back without, I don't know, something crazy happening. There's not going to be any new evidence. It's not like some of the appeals we've seen where it's like, oh, like, there was something happening where gas was leaking out of the car, and that's why we didn't have enough gas to give you for the sample or something like that. So we're not going to see anything like that. So I think more than anything, it's just Zach Brown being pissed off that the penalty's there in the first place, and he's going to go, sit in a room and tell people that he's pissed off about it. And then, as you were telling me beforehand, they'll probably even have to pay for this whole debacle, if it doesn't change anything, which kind of seems like a waste of money to me. It's just paying money for Zach Brown to get something off his chest.
Oh, I mean, it's their money. They can do with it what they want, I guess.
If you're
I
going to
don't.
waste it on that, give it to me. I will do something.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they want to, hand over more McLaren merch, hello. I'm more than happy to be a donee of that. Not that I need any more, but Zach, if you're listening, I'll definitely take some. But yeah, I mean, these are very rarely upheld. I think we were even talking in our pre-show conversation. The last one that I can think of was the Fernando Alonso post-race disqualification at Coda, ironically. And that was the race where he basically had gone airborne. He'd landed. We all thought he was going to be out. He ends up getting the car back to the pits. They change the tires. They change part of the wing, and he's ready to go again. And he actually came home in like 6th or 7th place in that race. And then they disqualified him afterwards. And then I think it was Alpine at the time appealed, and then blam, he gets his points back. That is one of the few times that I can remember recently under this standard that an appeal or a right of appeal has really been successful. So yeah, I'm not thinking this is going to go anywhere, but things go into the steward's room, weird shit happens. Who knows? This could be one of those, they all come out and, we do the breaking texts and the breaking tweets that, something has actually changed, but I'm not holding my breath for it. I mean, I appreciate McLaren for trying to stand by their guy and trying to make a point. But beyond that, I don't see it. And if I can't see it and I'm looking for it actively as a fan, I don't know that this is really going to work. So we'll watch it. I'm sure we'll come out with a decision either way. Keep attuned to our social media. I will try between work calls to text or tweet out what I know when I know it. All right. So the other bit of news, not really news, but it was a rumor that kind of burbled up, and Helmut Marko was going off and saying things to people, and people were writing down what he was saying. And it feels like a whole bunch of nothing as well here. But Helmut Marko had somehow linked Oscar Piastri with a potential move over to Red Bull. And Oscar Piastri met the media today. He was asked about it. And he basically said, not happening anytime soon. His exact quote was, quote, "I think we all know that Helmut says a lot of things in the press. As far as I'm aware, there's no truth to it." So I don't know that this is the tweet heard around the world quite issue. You never know. But at least for now, nothing to see here.
I'm aware that earlier today, without my consent,
Yeah, exactly.
Marco rumored that I am going to Red Bull. No. I think this is a pretty tall one. I mean, we've heard so many rumors that are probably not going to pan out about drivers going where. Verstappen to Mercedes, Norris to Red Bull, now Piastri to Red Bull, Ricardo to Red Bull. That one actually had some merit to it, never panned out the right way. And I just think it's just the rumor mill going. It seems like, Marco just likes to, get some attention in the media pretty much every race weekend, and is how he's going to do it. But I think that with the way that McLaren looks right now, I don't think Piastri would want to go anywhere. I think he's right exactly where he wants to be. He's already gone through one weird contract scenario. I don't think he wants to go through another one. So, yeah, I don't see any merit to this one.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think he's very happy with where he is. He's obviously got some sort of a number one driver status along with Lando because they haven't done the full bit team orders, or they never really have. So I think he's got whatever negotiating power he's wanted out of that contract, and he's going to put race winning potential car every week. And next year, unless McLaren completely bin their development, which we've seen no inklings of that happening through the course of this season. He's going to be in a car that's going to have a potential to win possibly at every race next year. So, they're clearly going to be favorites moving into next year. So there's no reason I don't see it.
Now, all that said, we did kind of say the same song and dance about the rumors about Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari around this time last year, and so I suppose you never know what's going to happen, but it's far-fetched.
I don't think Helmut Marko is as convincing or as smooth as John Elkann. I think John Elkann could sell probably a car to just about anybody. I think that's why he's at where he's at. So
Cars come wet.
Yes, exactly. And look, I mean, so the ask is to go be Max Verstappen's teammate when, you've got kind of teammate issues, not real teammate issues, but you've got, a known commodity and you've got negotiating power. You're going to give that power up and you're going to go to Red Bull where you have none. That yeah. And with Red Bull potentially being on the decline next year, we don't know that for sure yet, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I don't see this as much as happening here. So, short news week, not a lot of real news stories other than the right of appeal one. And that one we'll obviously keep our eyes on for sure. And we'll report out tomorrow when we get word on the decision. One thing that we do know with with the Mexican GP, or the Mexico City GP rather, is we know we get a lot of FP1 substitutes because this is now the time that it is a non-sprint weekend. It's one of, it's an opportunity for the young drivers to kind of get their feet wet in F1 machinery. And we've got a few here. So we've got Robert Schwartzman in for Guan Yu Zhou at Sauber. We've got Felipe Drugovich in for Fernando Alonso, who missed today with some sort of an illness and should be back, though, for FP2, according to the team. But he'll be in that car for Aston Martin. Oliver Behrman gets to enjoy some Ferrari machinery as he substitutes in for Charles Leclerc. Kimi Antonelli will figure out what his new ride looks like and hopefully last in it longer than 6 laps, as he will sub in for Lewis Hamilton. And Pato O'Ward will sub for a McLaren driver. We cannot figure out who. We looked. Nobody is reporting actively who it is. So it'll either be Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri at this race. And then he's going to do it again, I think, in Abu Dhabi. So again, whichever one he doesn't do here, he'll do later. So my guess is it's going to be Piastri, but I don't know that for sure. So I may be proven wrong. But Pato O'Ward will be in for a McLaren driver. He's already in Mexico City. There's a shot of him at a mall. There was some embroiled controversy where the IndyCar CEO said Pato O'Ward was not as popular as Adrian Fernandez. Well, if you look at that shot of that mall, I would beg to differ because I think everybody knew who he was and knew what he was doing there. So Pato, very, very popular and will be on the track representing Mexico in FP1 on Friday. All right. One last thing to watch out for, and we'll talk about this a little bit more when we even mention the track facts, but for whatever reason, the powers that be believe shortening the DRS zones are the thing to do lately. And now we have another instance of that. The main straight will have its DRS zone shortened by 75 meters. And we saw the same thing happen at Circuit of the Americas with the long straight there. And we saw how much fun that turned that corner into the entirety of that weekend with, moves and penalties and all the fun stuff. Does this turn one into that same situation, Cody? What's your thought here?
Gonna make it rough. I think it's a really weird decision. From what I was reading, it's because they were feeling that passes down the main straight last year were too easy. But as we've seen through a bunch of recent Mexico City Grand Prix, it's just really not easy to pass at this track at all. And so you took your one spot where there was good passing opportunities, and now you're going to make it even harder. It makes me wonder where anyone's going to pass at this track. It's going to be, probably not going to be as bad as like Monaco or anything like that, but it's going to be another one of those ones where you get the qualifying order and you have a pretty good idea where everyone's going to finish based on that. everything's going to happen at lap 1, turn 1, and then it's all up to blunders or retirements or anything like that. But yeah, I just don't see the logic in this one. You want to make passing easier here. Like, you can't really do anything with the other DRS zones because there's not enough space. If you make the other DRS zones shorter, there's going to be nothing there. So I guess if you were going to do it somewhere, I was going to do it here, but seems pretty silly to me.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I thought last year's was one of the more entertaining Mexican GPs or Mexico City GPs that we had since this track had come back to the calendar. More often than not, my criticism of the track layout is, guess what? You've now shown everything wrong with the current aero rules that make it hard to overtake anyway, because you get tantalizingly close in certain corners and nobody can pull a move off. Well, now you've just taken the corner where you can actually pull a move off, and we watched people like Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris and Max Verstappen pull off nice, clean overtake moves into that corner when they were, I don't know, the faster car. And now we're going to set it up so what? We're going to have Abu Dhabi 2010 all over again with, Fernando Alonso behind, Valtteri Petrov for 35 laps. I mean, who wants to watch that? I mean, that's no fun. So I agree. I don't understand that either. I would think that if the faster cars should be the ones able to get through, I think we have a fundamental issue sometimes with overtaking. Even though we've got the ground effect cars, we still have a wall of air that they get into, and a lot of cars can't seem to push through without DRS, which still kind of sucks because it means we actually still need DRS, and now you're taking part of that away. Yeah, doesn't make sense to me either, but we'll see how it plays out. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe this turns into something we never saw coming, but yeah, I agree with you. Doesn't make sense to me.
Another thing that maybe we haven't even thought about for this is, the altitude that this track is at makes the DRS not particularly effective either. So now it's really not going to do anything on that main straight.
As for such a long main straight, yeah, I mean, you really have to set the move up even in the prior corner. So you're coming out of the remnants of the Peraltada corner there. I think it's turn 17. If you're not within probably a half a second, even when you open the DRS, I can't imagine you getting a move pulled off, especially with this restriction here. So something to watch for on the timing screens is we get into the race and all that, and qualifying is going to matter. That's the one thing I would say about this track. The practices and the qualifying really matter here, because if not, you're going to have a really probably tough day, but we'll see. All right, so let's get into those Hermanos Rodriguez track facts brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. Cody, tell us where we're racing this weekend, and that is the Hermanos Rodriguez circuit in Mexico City, Mexico.
Yes, sir. The Formula One circuit goes racing around the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit, located, as you said, in Mexico City, Mexico. Number of laps around this circuit for the Grand Prix is going to be 71, and the length of the track is 2.674 miles. That's 4.304 kilometers. I believe this is one of the shorter circuits on the calendar. Tire selection from Pirelli for this race is going to be the C3, C4, and C5 tire compounds, and the track characteristics from Pirelli are a 3 out of 5 for traction, 3 out of 5 for braking, a 2 out of 5 for tire stress, 2 out of 5 for lateral load, 5 out of 5 for track evolution, 2 out of 5 for asphalt grip, 2 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, and a 5 out of 5 for downforce. The qualifying lap record for the circuit goes to Max Verstappen, set in 2019 with a 1 minute 14.758 seconds, while the race lap record goes to Valtteri Bottas, set in 2021 with a 1 minute 17.774 seconds. Max Verstappen has been very successful at this track in the current configuration. He is, I think, actually up to 5 wins now.
No, this is 4. It was 3. It was 3 last year. I think it's 4
last year. Okay, so going for 5 then. 4 wins for Max Verstappen. That's 2 for Lewis Hamilton, and 1 for Nico Rosberg. So Max, very successful here. Not sure it's going to happen with the way the car is right now, but fingers crossed.
Check that. You're correct, sir. We're 2 years in arrears on this thing. Right.
Okay.
5. It is 5.
5 for Verstappen then. Most constructor wins here, as you might assume then. Most constructor wins at the track is going to be 5 for Red Bull, followed by 3 for Mercedes. That's the 2 from Hamilton and 1 from Rosberg. 1 from Rosberg. I mixed that up. It's harder to say than I thought it was going to be. What's the circuit like, Andy?
You can tell we're recording when we're recording. The circuit is high up. The Hermanos Rodriguez Autodromo sits over 2 kilometers above sea level, making the 2.674 mile lap a breathless experience. The track still largely follows the outline of the original 1959 circuit, the main difference being that the spectacular and spectacularly scary Peraltada corner is now bisected, with the circuit instead winding through the old Faro Sol baseball stadium, providing one of F1's most unique vistas. As for the weather for this weekend, it looks like this is going to be pretty much right down the middle, as easy as you like. Maybe a little bit of wind may be the most significant factor, but for qualifying, sunshine and clouds mixed, a high of 72, winds out of the northeast at 10 to 20, a scant 4% chance of rain, so it looks to be dry. And for the race on Sunday, partly cloudy skies, a high of 71 degrees, winds out of the northeast again at 10 to 15, only 11% chance of rain. So it definitely looks like no intermediate, no full wet tires on offer this weekend. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to re-rack. We're going to come back, and then we're going to get into our predictions, and we're going to tell you what we think is going to happen over the course of the Mexico City Grand Prix weekend. So come on back. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back in. And this is Season 6, Episode 40 of the Outlap F1 Podcast. It's our 2024 Mexico City GP preview show. And you've got Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight. And it is now time for our predictions game, where we try to take our shots at what we think is going to possibly happen over the course of the weekend. And as we are apt to do, we shall start with that pole sitter. And the 2023 pole sitter was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. He was unfortunately not able to convert it into a race win, but 2024 springs anew, and Ferrari are on great form. I like your prediction here, Cody, and what you got?
I am riding high on Ferrari after the kind of surprise win for Charles Leclerc in the United States, and they had a surprise pole position for Charles Leclerc last year. I don't really think anyone was expecting that one, so I think it's all coming together for Charles Leclerc right now. I think he's going to get that pole once again.
All right, very good. I'm going to go Lando Norris, simply because Lando has to do this. If there is any hope at a championship, it's kind of sort of getting to now or neverville for him. And I do think this circuit will suit the McLaren car better. And I do think that over the course of at least one lap, he's definitely shown that he's capable of doing this now. So I'm going to go Lando Norris for the pole position, at least on Saturday. All right, so now what do we think the lap time will be? And we've got a lot of conversions here. I'll go first. I do think it's going to be faster than the 117.166 that we saw in 2023. So I'm going to go 116.587. Cody, I know you're close to me, but what you got?
Yeah, we are pretty close. I am going just a little less fast than you, but I do agree that we are going to see faster lap times here this year, despite the shortened DRS zone. I don't really know, I guess, how big a difference that's going to make for the qualifying time, but I'm going with the 1 minute, 16.719 seconds.
All right, very good. All right, so we will now turn our attention to Sunday and the main Grand Prix. Not a sprint format this weekend, so traditional FP1, FP2, FP3, quali, and race on the docket. So what do we have for our race podium, Cody? Last year was Max Verstappen taking the win, Lewis Hamilton in second, and Charles Leclerc coming home in third.
I really want it to be a Max Verstappen win, and he has performed here very well over many years. I just don't see it happening right now, though. I don't even see him making it on the podium. I've actually got Charles Leclerc making it back-to-back wins, and then followed by Lando Norris in second place and Carlos Sainz making it into third place for another double podium for Ferrari.
All right, very good. I share your thought that Ferrari, I think, will be strong. And all the analysis that I've kind of read seems to say that they are overall probably riding really high, especially on race pace. I also think Lando Norris has to win. So I think he's going to try harder than he probably has ever tried before. And if the car is good enough, I think he can pull it off. So I'm going to go Lando Norris to take the win. I do think Charles Leclerc will be right there in P2. I'm hoping that it may be one of those back and forth type situations. Maybe we see some wheel to wheel there. That would be more than entertaining, and I would definitely take that as a fan. Carlos Sainz is no slouch, and he's going to do everything he can while he has the good car underneath him as he's trying to, cement his legacy at Ferrari. So I do think, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz looks like a good podium to me. It also feeds into the championship. So let's say Max finishes fourth. That would be the 12 points that Lando needs to make this a sort of a competitive race again. So let's kind of see where we are after this weekend. But I'm going to go full homer at least one more time. All right. So we will move into our fastest lap and the driver. And last year's fastest lap was set by Lewis Hamilton with a 121.334. I'm going to go first on this one. I do think this will be a Max Verstappen. I think he's going to have one of those lonely races, nobody really near him, and then he'll dive in for that set of soft tires and pip the point at the end because he can, and probably because he'll have the justification that he needs to. So I've got that, and I've got a 120.874 for a lap time. I do think he's going to make it a really fast lap because that's what Max Verstappen tends to do when he has to do those types of things. So Cody, what you got here?
I think Verstappen is a really good pick because if there's anyone who actually really could use that point right now, it would be either him or Norris. And if Norris is competing for the win, which he probably will be, he's probably not going to be able to go for it safely. But the Williams cars are also really needing those fastest lap points right now in their battle for their place in the constructors. So I think we're going to see Franco Colapinto maybe get his first fastest lap in F1, and I think he's going to do it with a 1 minute 21.112 seconds.
All right, I'll give you an extra point if you pull that one off. I like that pick. I really like that pick. But I mean, as good a chance as anybody, I guess. But like I said, I will give you 2 points if Franco Colapinto sets the fastest lap.
Nice.
All right, so we'll move into our bonus picks. And just because they were here last year, I didn't really pick these, but I like them. So P8, P9, and P10 are what we're going to predict. So Cody, I'll let you go first on this one. What you got here for our bonus picks?
I think lately these kind of end of the points places have been filled out pretty well by the Haas cars. So I've got Hulkenberg P8, Magnussen P9, and then I think we are going to continue to see good things from Franco Colapinto. So I've got him getting that last point in P10.
All right, very good. I have some agreement with you, especially on Colapinto. I do think P10 is a good spot for him, but I've got K-Mag in P8, Alex Albon bouncing back a little bit in P9. You are right about the Williams car being really good in the straight line, and this is the track with the longest straightaway. So that would make sense that they would go good here. So I've got Albon P9, and then that aforementioned Franco Colapinto scoring yet again in P10 as Williams laying the foundation for the big driver headache that they're going to have at the end of the season. But I think it's a headache James Vowles would sign up for any time he can. All right. So our prop bet for this weekend, we don't see a lot of drama here. We finally got our safety car duck, handled last year. We didn't get a chance to really talk about that. But the first team to retire, if anybody, you can select none here if you are so inclined. I'll go first here. I'm going to say it's probably a Sauber. Just seems like, I hate to pick on these guys, but yeah, that's what I'm going with. But what you got here?
I think Sauber is probably as good a guess as any. These cars are like rock solid reliable right now, so I don't see high likelihood of a reliability type retirement. I think it's going to be probably something related to an accident, maybe at turn one, lap one. And I think the Saubers are going to be right at the very back, so they're going to be able to avoid that whole mess. However, I think the Alpines could be right in the thick of it, and so I think we might see a retirement from Alpine first off in the very first lap of the race.
That is definitely a plausible pick there. The only thing I would say about reliability is this is, because we are at altitude, it is the hardest track to keep the engines cool. So you may see, if there is a potential to have something blow up, this is probably the closest you're probably going to see that. But you're normally right. The cars in general, the engine manufacturers have had nothing to do but work on reliability for the last several years. And so they are rock solid engines, and they don't drop off, given how, even, when they've been in the car for 5, 6, 7 races, it just seems like you can run them to death, and they keep going. So, we'll see. That would be a shock if we actually had, I think, an engine retirement. We have not had one in a long time. So, but anyway, of course, as soon as I mention that, of course, I'll will it to happen. But let's hope it doesn't, because I kind of hate that. That always sucks as a race fan. Nothing, no fault of the driver, and then they're out. So don't want to see that. All right. So where and when can you watch your F1 this weekend? It is not up at the crack of dawn if you're in the United States. If you are in Europe, it is in your prime time, early evening windows or late evening windows, depending on some of these practices, actually. So practice 1 kicks off 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central for us. That will be on ESPN2. ESPN News for the next 3 sessions. Practice 2 kicks off 6 p.m. Eastern, so just as the workday ends, 5 p.m. Central for us. That's on ESPN News. Practice 3, 1:30 Eastern, so 12:30 for us in Central Time. They're also on ESPN News. The qualifying will kick off 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock for us. That's on ESPN News. And the race itself, 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 p.m. for lights out on... hang on 1 second. I think that's wrong. Why do I think that it's an hour later?
I think you're right, actually. I think it is 3 p.m. East or Central
3 Eastern.
Time.
Yeah, I thought it was 3 Central. So I think it's 4 Eastern, 3 Central.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, because I thought it was later than that. Want to get this right. Don't want you guys, catching the race halfway through here. So catch it when you're supposed to. But also, ESPN, the Family and Networks, ABC commercial-free coverage on Sunday. F1 TV is also a more than viable alternative if you have the relevant subscriptions there. I would highly, highly recommend that, as well as a good alternative for you to catch all of the action over the course of the weekend. All right, so we're going to take this all in. We'll be back probably Sunday night or possibly Monday night, depending on our respective weekend schedules. And we'll recap all of the fun, the twists and turns of the Mexican GP, and then we'll start to set the stage for the Brazilian Grand Prix as the triple header is in full swing. Cody, any final thoughts before we head on out?
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't watch it. You should watch it. It'll be fun. But my guess is this is probably the most boring one out of this triple header. There you got Mexico smushed between the U.S. Grand Prix, which has, had some really banger races the last bunch of years, and Brazil is a favorite for most people. So, yeah, not really looking forward usually to the Mexico City Grand Prix, but it's still Formula One, and like I said, after that big break that we had, I'm all for a triple header.
I just remember you saying the same thing about a certain Miami Grand Prix, and that one turned out to be pretty good. So, let's hope
that is true.
I hope you're wrong. I don't like you to be wrong. I think you're very smart and you're right a lot of the time, but I hope you're wrong on this one so that we actually see a really fun Mexican GP. The culture is great. There's the Day of the Dead guy. I've already seen him around. There's face paint everywhere. I've already had my taco dinner to set the stage for the weekend, so I'm all set to go. So yeah, we'll be back to recap it all. We'll keep attuned to the news if anything else breaks. We will definitely bring it to you throughout the course of the weekend. So for Cody, it's been Andy. We will catch you very soon. And as always, may all your laps be fast.